justice stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I'd like to acknowledge a quorum and open it up for public comment. Public comment, each resident who would like to speak will have 3 minutes. And in the interest of expediency, we'd like to keep it to that. So, anyone who would like to provide any public comment? No.
I thought that my presentation was going during Sandy's time.
No, it's during public comment. That was what we saw. Is that it was the time during public comment?
That's why I asked you about, when you were finished with what you had to say under the 501c, to maybe just roll under that.
No, I had mentioned that there would be public comment, 3 minutes. That was the last.
Okay, well, it was a misunderstanding. Thank God.
So you want me to go?
If you wanna do a presentation tonight, yeah, we're not gonna do public comment.
Okay, well,
Can I hit the lights?
yeah, you wanna, I'm still not sure that I'm able to get it to run properly, but we'll give it a try. Well, I'm afraid I'm not gonna be able to control its speed, so it's just gonna run through its things, but, my name is Meg. I'm here representing the board of the 501c3, which is your charity board. I wanted to do a couple of things. Number one, introduce myself and introduce the charity. And, number two, put up a proposal for putting in some doggy bag stations. And it is our hope, collectively of the 501c3 board, that this is the beginning of a great working relationship between us. A little bit of history, who we are. The Heidelberg Township Recreation Association is a 501c3 charity. We were established back in 2002 as a Pennsylvania nonprofit. Part of our articles of incorporation and bylaws are that our specific purpose of being organized is to help with the parks of Heidelberg Township and activities to enrich the residents here. That's been the mission of the 501c ever since it was created in 2002, and it remains our mission. So it was created back in 2002 with the when the park was donated. It went away for a while. Back in 2020, we did revive it. We made application to the IRS to reinstate our 501c3 status, which we were notified in 2021 that it was. And since that time, we've been basically on hold pending the creation of this board. So this board is what we've been told we're waiting for many, many years. We're very glad you're here and very excited to be working with you. We do have some financial ability and a fiduciary duty to the park. So as this board is not does not have a financial arm, we can hope, and we hope to work with you guys to do that. We're a lot more nimble than this board can be, because we are not bound by the rules about, you know, you have to wait, you have to announce a public meeting and this and that. We've just revised our bylaws so that, we can act by unanimous consent of the board, unanimous written consent. So we can be pretty nimble. So this proposal, I'm also hoping is gonna be a test balloon to just see how the board and the charity can work together.
And we have a copy of that proposal, and that's one of the things that we definitely want to discuss when we come down to the 501c3 part of the agenda.
Okay, so you're done with my presentation? Or you want me to continue?
Well, I mean, you had 3 minutes, and we're trying to keep the 3 minutes for public comment.
Thanks so much.
Is there a question? I don't chance for questions.
Did you have a question?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm happy to take your questions.
Okay, I saw, 3 different proposals for, doggy bags station. What is this 501c3 looking at? What do you think is the best?
Well, that's entirely up to you. We're agnostic as to which option you choose, whether it's the kind that has just the box, and in which case those are much cheaper and we could afford to put, to donate a lot more of those. If you want that medium range one that has it comes with that sturdy and what's required by most municipalities is in terms of a post. But it doesn't have that collection bin that was the controversial thing. And then if you want the more expensive one that includes the collection bin, then we can only get, I think, 2 of those right now, but we could get like 3 or 4 of the other kind, of that medium kind. So that depends on you guys. We're agnostic. We just wanna help get the doggy dispensers into the park. You guys decide where, when, how many, where they get placed. Do you wanna do a mix and match of some of them? Because some of them can be mounted on buildings or existing fencing.
And, from what I read from the proposal, it's going to fall on the township to install them and empty them.
Correct. We don't have any kind of written arrangement with the township, and for insurance reasons, we can't be responsible for that. So yes, we would hope that, in the same kind of thing as them when they did the pickets around the, area, that maybe Chris could help out, or maybe the Hilberts could help out, or.
Volunteers too, right?
What's that?
Volunteers?
Oh, of course, yeah.
Mhm.
If the township is willing to do that, but we can't, as the 501c3, we can't assume the liability of installing something on the park grounds that then the township could say, or somebody could get injured or something and come back on us. We can't do that.
Okay, I appreciate your proposal and the 501c3. I think you're gonna be the backbone of moving this park forward.
I hope that we can work together to really get things moving. Okay?
Any other public comment?
Thanks, man.
Thank you. Laurie?
Meg, do you have or maybe it's part of the proposal, but I guess the public doesn't see this. What do the costs of this look like?
Okay, well, those questions would have to be addressed to the board.
Okay,
What we would do is develop a proposal for the board of supervisors, and we would present that at a public meeting.
and this was a need that the public came to you about?
Correct. Okay. Okay, any other public comment? would say it takes about 10 seconds for the human brain to formulate a question, so. Takes about 0 seconds for silence to become uncomfortable. Okay, well then let's move forward. I would ask the board to take a look at the April minutes. And does anyone have anything glaring that they saw that needs to be changed or amended in those minutes?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the rec board minutes.
Okay, there's been a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
Second. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, April minutes are approved. Okay, so, our next, item on the agenda, vandalism at the concession stand. Sandy, if I could call on you, since you were the one who kinda discovered that, if you could share what you discovered, what you found.
I was just doing my daily morning walk, and when I walked over to the garbage can at the pavilion, or at the concession stand, I saw the glass all over the cement. At which point I called the police. They came, they took pictures. And then I went home and got a broom and a dustpan, and Meg went me up there and cleaned it up. Tim showed up, Chris showed up, and you showed up. The big window at the front being where the cement is, it appeared that somebody must have punched it because there was blood on the board. And there's a board on the inside that comes down and locks, and one lock was broken, but we really don't think anybody got into it. And then we walked around the side of the building, and they also had broken the window out on that side with locks. Cleaned the mess up and left.
Okay. Good. And have you heard anything?
I have not
Fine with
heard
that?
anything.
Okay.
I thought the windows would be replaced by now, because that was what, over a month ago?
Yeah, it was not long after our last meeting. Okay, I think that might be something we need to ask if there's a follow-up at the public meeting on Thursday. Okay, under old business, the fee schedule for the fields and pavilions, we had to kind of put that on hold because we had a change in membership. So we haven't had much movement on that. We're still taking a look at, what Nick submitted, what I had submitted, and that leads into the second item there, the master plan thoughts and brainstorming. Just to let the board know, John and I met with a gentleman who walked with us, gave us some really good suggestions on the tot lot area, on ways moving forward, but he was not a master planner, as we found out. But we do have a meeting tomorrow.
Yes, can I speak?
Nick, absolutely. I was hoping
Yes,
you would.
we have a master planner, Andy Mears, out of York. His company is JDT Enterprise. He is a certified park and recreation builder and advisor. And we're looking to him to put together a master plan, which would be one of 3 of which we're required to have, so that it can be a bid item and we can approve what they have on it, on the proposed plan or not. So we're moving forward on that. Tomorrow at 10 a.m. Andy's going to meet us here, and we're gonna survey the park and come up with hopefully suggestions as how to use it beneficially for a master plan. And then from there, we'll go with, we have some other ones lined up that we have been in touch with, especially Tara, and we'll keep proceeding with that till we get 3 bids.
And then we'll submit that to the Board of Supervisors.
Right,
and-
the Board of Supervisors would have to approve the bid, and we would have to look at what's included in the master park plan if it's going to service what Heidelberg Township wants.
Okay. Thanks, John.
I have a question on that.
Yes,
Are you developing an RFP?
I'm not familiar with that.
Are you getting it, so you're gonna get a quote from him,
It's, yeah,
or you're just gonna talk to him about it?
or he's gonna develop one and give us what amount of money it's gonna cost.
So my understanding as to the process, because the 501's been looking at this process as well. And my understanding is that you have to have what's called an RFP, a request for, help me with the word, proposal, thank you. So that when you get the 3 bids, you're comparing apples to apples. So knowing exactly what it is that they would be doing, and that requires an RFP.
and we would work with the Board of Supervisors to develop that thing. That would be something that we need to clear with them.
Well, if it's my understanding, then we have the 3 bids have to have the same exact items in the park.
And is that needed in order to get a bid, the RFP? You're supposed to have that first,
Yes, you're supposed to have the RFP.
because that's what you present to each individual bidder.
At this point, I think it's just a informational meeting.
Right.
Correct.
He's also going to enlighten us with probably the steps required and who we can go through to get grants, especially the Department of Environmental, DNC, and so on. He's worked very closely with them. He's designed all the Spring Grove School District playground. He works with, who's the next township down?
Jackson? Jackson?
Jackson Township, and he's worked with, the borough and their park development, which if you've been there, over the different years, it's just expanded. It's beautiful, so, he is familiar around the area, and he has helped these townships and the school district. I'm not pushing this gentleman, I'm just filling you in on what he's done in the area.
And at this point, we're just gathering information.
Right.
John, at what point does the residents in the township become a part of this process? Like, at what point do you reach out and find out what the township wants?
Well,
From
as we
their
mentioned
park.
before, what we're looking at, if the residents have suggestions for the park, we provided a pathway for them to submit those through the front office, and then they would be coming to us. So if
So
the
you've asked
residents-
for the townships?
So when residents have a suggestion, as we talked about in the last meeting we had, we would like to see residents come in with a written suggestion that would come into the township front office. The township front office, because we are a municipal arm of the township, they would then forward that to us, and the board would take up that suggestion. but that's what we would be looking at.
Do you know how many families, like, that have children, how many retired people? Have you looked into all of that too? Does that go into your decision-making?
It would depend on the suggestion, I think.
Well, if the gentleman's going to come and go through the park, shouldn't we have an understanding as to what part of the community we are trying to service in the park?
In my statement in the newsletter, I said that we're gonna put a park in that services the entire community, from tots to elderly, because I feel that movement is important, and the elderly need to move just as much as the young people need to move. So we're gonna plan the best we can for elderly, adult, teenagers, and tots, okay? When we get suggestions, we will plug them into these master plan, excuse me. We will plug these into the master plan and let them come up with the results as to where the placement is best, and they know all the ins and outs as to how much space has to be between things and everything. We are not capable of handling that. But that's my point of view for the Heidelberg Township Park. It should service everyone.
But I would guess that the current population would determine the progression of the work that you do in the park, right? You know, if you have a larger retired population, it would seem that, you know, moving on projects for older population would be more, you know, upfront, depending on the population of the township. It doesn't seem like we have a huge population of children, like we, you know, some do.
Well,
But
Two
I would
things.
imagine it would just be a matter of looking, right?
two things. One, when Tara and I were up here with Bill Hunley, the park salesman for equipment, 3 families came to this park that weren't even in Heidelberg Township. They were driving by and they said, boy, that looks nice. They came up here and used the park. So it's getting used, and maybe not all by Heidelberg Township people, but that's the part of a park. The second thing is, once we get these master plan, the public can determine where we're gonna start, what area we wanna start on first. We can plan that out. And hopefully the public will have, say in that. But we need to get, what's it gonna cost, what the item is, before we can start that.
But you already have work that needs to be taken care of already, like the ball fields are in terrible condition. You know, the area where the basketball court is in bad shape. So why not, are you gonna start with what you have versus new projects?
Personally, I can't answer that. I'm just one person.
We just need to gather some information
Yeah,
first, and I think that's where we're gonna be.
Okay.
Okay, new rules and regs for the park. Sandy had put together a list of things. I hope everybody had a chance to take a look at
Yeah, I
it.
just consolidated that convoluted mess from the other meeting And I had said that if anybody wants to delete, add, change, not gonna hurt my feelings. I think they're just basic, sensible rules and regulations. And the one thing I did add, if I can find my copy, was, about unsupervised children. I just grasped at an age and put 12, no unsupervised children under 12. But actually, when you think about it, it's between 12 and 17 who causes the most damage. So,
Yeah, the ski jumps come to mind, the picnic table ski jump. I did have a question that I wanted to ask you about. Do we, and I haven't seen a lot of this in some of the other municipalities that I've looked at, but do we need to address drones? Because I know that there are some municipalities that don't permit drones in their parks. I don't think we have a lot of that here, but do we need to at least address something like that?
Would that not fall under a motorized toy? Or
I don't
could
know.
it?
It probably could, if we
Put it there.
specified it out, yeah, we could add it in there.
Yeah, it's fine with me. I never even thought of those.
The only reason why it popped up is there was something that came up, I happened to catch something on the news the other day about drones in the park and how the residents were up in arms about it, so.
Okay.
I personally like that, cover our butts before we get
To specify it?
something, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think we should, yeah, definitely specify it.
Well, would these not be just the general rules and regulations that would go on a sign?
Mhm.
Yeah, that would be posted.
Mhm.
And then, what would actually be written out would be more specific. But, I mean, that can be included under the motorized toys
Yeah,
or ATVs, anything like that.
yeah, I think it'd be a good idea just to have that spelled out.
Okay.
Now, do we need to have something down at the bottom of a sign that would say for a full list of the rules and regulations is available at the township
Yeah.
office?
Yeah.
Is there a time that it closes?
Dusk.
Park?
Mm-hmm. That's when it's supposed to be,
And
it's
it's posted?
yeah.
Yeah. Park hours will be
Park
during the
during the
dusk.
dusk. Okay, good. Do we feel that we're at a point where we can put a nomination out to finalize this and submit it to the supervisors? Do you all feel comfortable with that?
I certainly do, yes.
Okay.
I-
Then
Is
I'd like
it
to-
on, do you have those? Do you have copies where
We do.
people can see them?
Well, we will submit them to the board of supervisors and, because that's who we report to.
But can you read them just so the people that are here, so we know what you're promoting, like, so we know what it was that you're promoting?
Sure. Park hours will be during the dusk, speed limit is 15, no children under the age of 12 unsupervised by an adult, no pets without leash or race tag, no activity that does not have designated area, no alcohol or illegal drugs, no loud, lewd, or indecent behavior, no littering, all trash must be put in proper containers, no vandalism, graffiti, or destruction of any and all park property, no motorized toys or ATVs of any kind, now including drones, no skateboards or rollerblades, no open fires of any kind, no firearms, air guns, slingshots, paintball, firework, or explosives. call 911 if any violation of the above rules is witnessed. All violations are punishable by fine and or imprisonment. And then we're gonna add the full list is available at the township office or on the website. This could be put on the website.
Once the website gets populated, yes,
Okay.
I would hope. So,
Thank you.
it's still a work in progress.
Comment,
Question?
comment, should be, leash and waste bag, not or. Somebody,
Okay.
No,
Oh,
she does,
I read
it
or,
does say and.
oh, okay.
sorry.
Okay, well, I'd like to make a motion that we finalize these rules and regulations for the park and submit them to the Board of Supervisors.
So you're making that,
I'm making that motion.
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion passes. Cindy, do you think we can have these amended for the meeting on Thursday to submit to the supervisors? Okay, yeah, if we could do that, then we'll get those submitted.
So the only thing I'm changing is the motorized toys, I'm adding drones.
Mm-hmm.
And then how do you want me to put it at the bottom, full list of rules and regulations available at office?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, and what do we wanna have specifically on that full list of rules? That would be, you know, would it be more of a copy of this that people could take, or would it be more fleshed out?
I think the general rules would be
Yeah,
fine.
what else needs to be fleshed out, like what are?
Yeah, is there anything on here that needs to be fleshed out that people would be aware of? I didn't see anything that I think needs to, I mean, these are pretty clear to me, they seem to
Right,
stand on their
right.
own very
And
well.
I think, you know, if you wanna get more specific, it can be done with the full list that will be available on the web, or at the office.
Hmm.
Was that what you're asking, what would be
Yeah.
different between this and the full list?
Well, nothing for me
Yeah, me
has to be
neither.
different.
And I don't
But
think we need
when I
anything to do.
compared all those other ones, some of them got pretty specific.
They did,
Um,
they did.
which, I'm sorry, anybody with common sense, it doesn't have to be spelled out like that.
Common sense is a
But,
commodity these
but if, you know, if
days.
anybody thinks it needs to be,
Maybe be on the safe side, maybe we should have. Like what kind of, do you remember examples of
well,
like what would have it spelled out more?
well, here, as far as littering. No person shall litter, discard, deposit, dump, or allow to blow away refuse of any kind or nature within or upon the park system except by placing said refuse in appropriate refuse containers provided for such purposes. I mean, and it goes on, I mean, there's more.
Yeah,
No person shall engage in any violent, abusive, loud, boisterous, vulgar, lewd, wanton, obscene, or otherwise disorderly conduct tending to create a breach of the peace or to disturb or annoy others while in or on the park ground, including but not limited to fighting or physical or verbal threats, causing or creating a noise which would likely annoy or disturb. I mean, I think,
yeah.
I don't know how specific you wanna get.
I don't see where we need anything more than these. So instead of saying for a full list of rules, John, what do you think?
I agree.
I keep it simple.
Yes.
It just seems to be, so should we say then a copy of these rules can be obtained by the township by visiting the township office or something to that effect?
Sure.
Okay.
Are we gonna post anything out on the park of these rules?
I think the original park sign has a lot of these on,
And
most
that's
of them.
in the concession stand?
I think it was put up somewhere.
It was on the, I know initially it was on the pavilion when you came into the park, but
Right.
now
Okay,
Probably should be posted several places,
I
right?
think so too, yeah. So if we get a new sign with these on it, maybe get two
You're talking about that little pavilion
Yeah,
right behind,
as you come
as you
into
come
the parking
in,
lot.
yeah.
That's where the original sign was. I don't know if it's still there or not.
I wanna say it is. I think it was put back up, but I'm not
Okay,
100%
I
sure.
wasn't sure. if
I had
it
to
was
walk
put
up there
back
every day.
Yeah. Well, and it's easy, you know, when you're thinking of other stuff, when you're pulling in, you're not focusing on that being there. Okay, good. So we will take this then to the Board of Supervisors on Thursday and see maybe if we can get some new signs made. Would we recommend having one at the concession stand, one at the pavilion coming in, and maybe one at the Top Lot Pavilion? Maybe 3?
I would agree with that. Also, the gentleman we're meeting with is a professional in this. Can we ask him what his thoughts are tomorrow, where he would recommend to put them?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Because I'm not one to like to do things over
Twice.
again.
I agree. Absolutely. Okay. Alright, we'll definitely take that to him, and if that doesn't change, if what he recommends doesn't change anything, then we'll go ahead and move forward for Thursday.
So how do you want me to put this into, do you still want me to say that you can obtain a list of the rules and regulations? I don't wanna say full list, because then.
Right, no, a copy of these rules and regulations, or a paper copy, or something to that effect, a paper copy of these rules and regulations is available at the township office. And I think we should also recommend that whenever the pavilion gets rented out, or the ball fields get rented out, anything to that effect, and that might be something else to look at, is a sign down where the ball fields are. Should they be given, whoever's
Absolutely.
Using-
They should
be given
be
a paper
given
copy.
those when they sign up
Yeah,
for
when they
the
sign up.
pavilion.
Yep, absolutely, okay, so let's make sure that we add that in as well, in our proposal to supervisors.
Hi Travis.
Evening.
Thank you for your work on that, Cindy.
Yeah,
It
it
was
was
very,
great,
very good.
it was, it definitely was, it was very, very detailed. Okay, our next new business is the role of the alternate member. I know that at the last township meeting, we had an alternate who was elected. Bylaws,
I
no,
was
we
wondering
didn't.
about that too.
Thank you, yes, you just moved right over it. Did you all get an opportunity, thank you for getting me back on track. Did anybody get a chance to look at the proposals for the bylaws that I sent out from other organizations?
Yes, I did.
Okay, I thought they were pretty good for kind of setting up our own bylaws for these. They're all from advisory boards. They all seem to have some of the same verbiage that I think we could use in ours, and I would like to submit that maybe for the next meeting, we go through and come up with a proposal for bylaws for us.
I absolutely agree. We need to have that sooner than later.
Okay.
Now, how are we gonna do that without breaking the sunshine act? Are we gonna just, how do
So-
we,
So what, the same way that we've been pushing information out, if you have a suggestion, bring it back to me one-on-one, and then we will compile everything, we will bring it to the public meeting and present it at the public meeting for all the board members to see. Okay? Okay, that's easy enough. And, we did get some clarification, that we can include our relationship with the 501c3 in the bylaws on how that relationship's gonna work.
Okay.
And I do have a little bit more on that, as we go through the agenda. So, okay. All right, so we'll have that set up for business for next meeting, is discussion on the bylaws, and hopefully have something put together that we can then submit. Okay, so back to the role of the alternate board member. I asked for clarification from the board of supervisors as to what that entails, and the information that has been provided back to me is that the role of the alternate is to be there when, we do not have a quorum. And so Vicky is our alternate, has been elected by the board of supervisors to be our alternate. If we have 3 or more board members, we have a quorum. And if we have less than 3, then we would request that the alternate step in. Okay? Any questions?
I had a question about that. So why did you guys not have your meeting just, as it was scheduled, as it was advertised? Didn't you have 3 members to have a meeting?
We had some things come up that were not planned for, that kind of caught us flat-footed, and we felt that the best alternative, because we went back and reviewed the ordinance that set us up, and it states that we will meet monthly or as necessary. So we felt that given the situation that happened, that we needed to regroup and come back at this meeting and then pick up where we left off. So that was why the meeting was canceled. I was out of town. We had some stuff come up, and John and I had a discussion, and we decided it was the better part of valor to cancel that meeting and come back this meeting.
But isn't that his job to run the meeting when you're not here?
We talked about that, and we felt that it was, in this case, because of the things that were going on, we needed time to regroup.
What was going on?
That was a discussion for the board.
Okay.
Okay. Our next item on the agenda is.
Excuse me, can I ask a question before you go about the alternative? The alternate, excuse me. So when, for the alternate person to come, like if you do need them to vote in things, so their alternate is not kept abreast of everything going on, because what happens is if people get sick and they can't come, that person then wouldn't be up to speed on everything, like what John said, all the information behind, just like there when I asked what were the bylaws, just so that you kind of can be abreast of it. So do you plan to keep the alternate, whoever the alternate person would be through the whole thing, abreast of everything? So if they do have to make a vote, they're not trying to read all this stuff and play catch up to what the information, because you may not know till the last minute, like the last meeting, you may not know till the last, I'm just asking how you're doing it.
Sure. In my discussions with the board of supervisors, the plan would be, if we needed to have the alternate involved, we would then reach out to the alternate and make sure that the alternate was up to speed on what was going to be coming up for that particular agenda. Okay,
So that
You
was
look like you
the
have a
board
question.
decision. That was what the board said.
the board of supervisors? Yes.
That-
one-
So what I'm hearing, and correct me if I'm wrong,
Sure.
that the alternate would only receive the information that is going to be presented on that evening where he or she is going to be in
Called
person.
upon.
And
If there are
she-
any voting that needs to take place, yes.
And that person is not going to be kept up to date with previous things.
Other than attending the meetings, hopefully the alternates would be attending the meetings, so they would know the things that are being discussed, like we are discussing tonight. but the role of the alternate, based on everything that I've read and then getting confirmation from the Board of Supervisors, is that the alternate would be needed if there was going to be a vote taking place and we did not have a quorum.
Can I ask, I know Paul King, you know what, for asking a question to the audience, can I ask?
I have no problem with you asking a question. Yeah.
Vicki, how do you feel about what we just explained? Do you feel part of that, or?
I can speak for myself, but I think any person who would want to give a well-educated vote in something, I feel that the person that's an alternate, you're never gonna know when they're needed. And I guess that's the thing that concerns me, the responsibility of an alternate to go and give a vote that's, once you give that vote, then the precedent is set. So myself personally, doing the alternate's job, I would take it very responsibly, just like you would as a board member. I think that the alternate should be abreast of everything that's going on, so that if something happens at the last minute, yes, they may always be there, but what if it is a meeting night that something happened, you couldn't? And, you would then know like you said, the background information. That's the only thing that concerns me, is if you would have to make a decision on something, at the last minute like that. It's a lot of information sometimes, just like the bylaws, things that you know, what it would be that you're making that decision, and I didn't have the paper, whoever, the alternate didn't have the paperwork for the bylaws, but had to vote on that. To ingest all that within a few minutes, an hour or two before a meeting, I don't know if we're doing the position to the community as a good service, but that's a decision you would have to make. That's my background on it.
Thank you. Okay, discussion for the 501c3 charity group. I had several things to fall under that. The first and foremost was the path for the communications flow between the two groups. Had a discussion with the Board of Supervisors as to what their initial thinking was when they put this board together. Did I miss something again? See, that's what happens when you check before. Okay, recommendations for replacement board member, sorry. I have requested to the Board of Supervisors that they revisit a replacement for our board. I have notified them as pursuant to the ordinance that we do need to have a replacement board member, and have made some recommendations based on input, and we will see where that goes. So there's really not a whole lot to report on that, other than we've made recommendations.
Do you think they're gonna act on that Thursday?
At this point, I don't know.
Okay.
At this point, I don't know.
Wouldn't you as the chairperson be the ones who decide that?
No, because we're appointed by the Board of Supervisors. So all board members are appointed by the Board of Supervisors. So.
So wouldn't the alternate go into that position?
Not necessarily. We did some checking on that and talked with Board of Supervisors, who also talked to the lawyer, and it's not a given that the alternate would move into the place.
Well, what would be the point, what would be the reason that you wouldn't, they've already voted on this person, what would be possibly be the reason not to use that alternate?
I couldn't tell you.
She's been to all the meetings,
I couldn't tell you, Lori. We're just making recommendations. Remember, we're an advisory board, and I'm gonna keep saying that over and over and over
Right.
again. We are an advisory
right,
board only.
which is
We
what you
don't make
said.
any
You
decisions.
did say that you had made some recommendations,
Yes.
so,
And it's up to the solicitor and the board to follow through on that, not us. We are just advisory. I know you're tired of hearing that.
Keep hearing it.
So can we know exactly who your recommendations can the public know who you are recommending, excuse me, to be, to fill in for the supervisor?
We are falling back on the submissions that we had from folks prior to, the appointments that, when the board was initially set up.
Mhm.
There
There
were
was
folks
8.
who had submitted, so we've asked the supervisors to look through that list of people who submitted, the forms, the volunteer forms and
So there was 3 people that was left. It was Meg, myself, and Dan Wilmot, were the 3 people that weren't chosen from that original board that met all the
no,
qualifications.
there were others as well. There were other formal requests that came in as well.
Not before the meeting, cause I have the sheets, they put everyone's name on the sheets, of exactly the people who they submitted till that vote. It's right in the minutes of exactly who that was. There was 8 members, they took 5. There was 3 left.
Right,
Sorry,
that was-
I thought there were 9 as well, but there were other people that came in and submitted a form. So all we've asked them to do is relook at the original list and take a look to see who they would be comfortable with. As I said, we've made our recommendations, and we'll see what they do.
I never saw that.
Yeah, I don't think we were at that meeting. That was when we were appointed, initially appointed. I think you were at that meeting.
I never saw this.
Okay, so, now that one's done, we, I can keep track of where I'm at. So the discussion on the 501c3 charity, I was asked to attend a session with Sandy, who is a representative for both parties, both the Park and Rec Board as well as a member of the 501c3. We had a discussion earlier in the week. I was asked what my views were on how the 2 organizations were put together. I gave my opinions on that, but also prefaced it by saying I would have to get further guidance from the supervisors, which I did get. And the path that I had thought was the one that the supervisors had envisioned was the one that was shared to me when we had that session, and that is that Sandy would be our point of contact. So the idea being that if we have something that we wanna bring to the 501c3, our board would put it together, we would submit it to Sandy, Sandy would take it then to the 501c3. The path in reverse would work exactly the same way. If the 501c3 had a recommendation, they would bring it to Sandy, and then Sandy would bring it to the board at large, and then we would have a discussion about that. And I would ask that for ease of expediency, for lack of confusion and some chaos, that we abide by that pathway if we can. That was one of the reasons why it was set up the way that it was, and I'd like to try to stick with that if we can. Okay? Questions?
There are gonna be more specific things in the bylaws.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. And we'll get that included into the bylaw. Okay, the proposal for the signs that Meg talked about during her presentation, I think that is something that's been long wanted and asked for. I think it's a great idea that we put something together for the board of supervisors and make a suggestion that, we allow the 501c3, or we work with the 501c3 to get those signs. Now, the question mark I know that's gonna come back is who's gonna do the installation. And I know there's gonna be pushback on that. So that might have to be something that we need to be prepared for in making that presentation for the signs. and the receptacles. The question that came up the last time, and I think Sandy, you had brought it up to the Board of Supervisors quite a while back, was who would empty the receptacles?
Well, if there's gonna be an issue with that, I've carried a bag a whole lap around the park. To me, that's no big deal. I think the more important thing is that the bags are available and hopefully people use them. There are 2 garbage cans, one at the concession stand, one up at the pavilion, and I deposit in either one of them. I mean, I don't, if that's gonna be such a big issue that a little trash bag can't be pulled out of a receptacle, then just don't have a receptacle and let people carry it to one.
Carry it to the garbage cans. I agree, but all I'm saying is, you know, I would love to see the receptacles, cause I just think it's, you know, one and done, and it makes it more convenient for the residents, but
I
I know
would be
that was
more
a
than
pushback.
happy to share duty with that.
duty literally.
Yeah, poop duty, whatever.
Yeah.
And I would also like information is that I, as a volunteer, could put the signs up, put the stations up. Because you said some of them need stakes, they need stakes to be mounted on, right?
It comes, well, depending on what you request, it comes with the stake, but that needs to have then a cement pad and get bolted on and.
And should I take the initiative to run that by Barb to see if I could do that, or she could assign Chris and I to do that, or?
Well, I think that needs to be part of our written proposal to the supervisors.
Oh,
That
okay,
we volunteer.
that's a good idea.
Yeah, I think include that in the proposal to the
Yeah.
supervisors. My question was, when I read over this, with the ones that are mounted on fences or buildings, you know, with it being up at the park, there wouldn't be anything, we don't have fencing, we don't have, you know, unless we do it at a pavilion or something, we wouldn't have that. And I think the main source of contention is the walking paths, correct?
Right.
So I would think that we would probably want to lean more towards the medium grade, either with or without the receptacle, depending on, you know, how we wanna do the write-up on that. And then have one with the stands that we can then install. And that way it'd be along the pathways where people are walking their dogs and stuff. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
We have a question.
People who have animals usually take good care of them, they're supposedly responsible people. So I would think if you're supplying the bags for the poo-poo, they should be able to walk to the trash can without it being another expense to the township for them to do that. You've got the trash cans, you're already paying somebody to empty those trash cans. So if you find on later that it's going to be a big issue, put a trash can by the things that's gonna get picked up.
Well, this wouldn't be at a cost to the township. This is something that we're looking at this is a suggestion that came in from the charity, that they would cover the costs on that. So, and that would be the proposal. to
But
the
why
Board of
waste
Supervisors.
money? I mean, even if it's free money. I mean, people have to take, we can't cover every area. People have to take on some responsibility
I
themselves.
agree. I agree.
If you're gonna have an animal, you have to be considerate of other people. Believe me, I have neighbors who aren't that way.
The problem we've run into, and Sandy, I think you can attest to this as well, is we've had complaints from residents where even though the sign specifically says dogs need to be leashed and dogs need to be picked up after, that there is
Yeah, there's always that one.
stuff on the trails and that, you know, sometimes there are dogs that are not on a leash.
It does seem if someone would take the time to pick it up, that they would take care of putting it in the trash.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so that's the bigger issue is, you know, will they use it if it's there? If we put it, will they come?
Yeah,
And that's-
because I mean, they're gonna get the baggie there, that doesn't mean the dog's gonna poo there.
Right.
It's gonna poo further up. They still have to get rid of that bag one place or another. Let them use what we have.
Well, and hopefully they would take the bag as they were walking, coming into to the walk path with their dog.
If we're
That's
walking
the
in
goal.
a neighborhood, they'd have to do that, you know?
You would hope. You would hope. But it is definitely an issue. It's an issue that several residents have brought up, numerous times that they've been walking up there and they've had issues, so.
Funny story is when I went to Cadorus when I first moved up here, I don't know the difference on animal poo. And I remember going down to the little inlet off of Hoff Road, and there was animal poo everywhere. And they had a board up there, and I put a little poem saying, if your doggy poos, pick it up. I made it rhyme somehow. It was goose poo.
Yeah,
So
that's
much I
everywhere.
do.
That is everywhere up there. So if I could ask the board members to take a look at the specific, units that the 501c3 has provided and individually let me know what your preferences are for us to do that, keeping in mind of the cost, keeping in mind, you know, how can we get the widest distribution. That would be great, and then we could have something put together and move that forward.
Yes.
Perfect.
Question, comment?
Sure, Nick.
So if you decide that there are more than what's suggested, you know, each style has a quantity. If you decide that that you want more than that, that's fine. We'll do some more fundraising and pick it up. It just probably can't be in the first order.
Right, but we can at least do an initial order and then,
Yeah.
work from there. And I know you gave us the figure for approximately how much that you all had available to do something like this with.
Right in there, the
Yeah, I
budgeted
know
amounts are
the-
$500 to $600.
I knew I remembered something around 500, but I couldn't remember. Okay, good, thank you. The third thing I wanted to bring up, and this was something that I think the 501c3 could assist with as well, especially given what happened at the concession stand. We had before, when there was a park and rec board, talked about getting cameras up there, and I know Meg, you had provided a couple of like trail cameras that we could have put up there and it never got installed or anything like that. Would that be something that we would wanna revisit to try to prevent things like that? I'm thinking maybe a camera up at the pavilion by the tot lot, a camera at the concession stand, and maybe a camera on one of the ball field stands, one of the dugouts, just kinda overlooking that area as well. What would
Well,
be
I
your thoughts on
think most of the damage that's been done that I'm aware of has either been done at the pavilion where the playground is or the concession stand.
I agree.
So I think if you wanna start with two and see what happens with that. But I think they would be the best areas to put it into the bin.
Yeah, I
Again,
definitely.
maybe tomorrow he could give a suggestion.
I was thinking the same thing, but I didn't wanna open my big mouth again.
Why not?
I think cameras are a great idea.
Yeah. Okay. And the thing is, if we got something like the trail cameras, they could easily be moved, you know, once we come up with our master plan. I was just looking at something quick and easy in the meantime, so we don't.
And he could probably recommend a good quality, cheap.
What about placement? Do you have to worry about anybody stealing?
Probably not if they're up high enough.
That's what, they may be
So,
good and high.
Yeah, we'd have to figure out the best place to put them.
Put them in.
Aside from vandalism, like, I watch a lot of court cases, like, they rely on cameras all the time to prove things, so you never know what other things could happen here that cameras would be a good thing.
Exactly. Okay, good. Yeah, so there'll be more to follow, once, John and I meet with this gentleman tomorrow, I'll put out some notes and, we'll move to do something like that maybe. according to, I missed anything on the agenda? Did I skip over anything again?
Is there? We haven't asked any questions.
Yes, you are, yes.
Okay. In a previous meeting, we talked about a fundraiser with food trucks. Where has that gone, or is that just done with?
No, it's not done with. It was put on hold until we got a better idea of the views of what the supervisors had for the Park and Rec Board meeting that we had with the chair of the supervisors. So we wanted to see where that went and the feedback from that meeting. I know I was particularly heartened by the meeting that we had. I thought that it went very well, and I think it's time to move forward with that whole idea again. I know, Gloria, we're looking at dates maybe in September.
That's what we were thinking.
Yeah, so I think let's maybe start looking at that again. We can start looking at dates and, see what kind of dates we can get.
Is
With the
that
50
something the 501c3 would help with also? As some volunteers from your group?
Sure, although, my understanding from Tara was that your board would be doing the volunteer coordinating. We would be doing more of the grant writing and this kind of thing.
For keeping a database of volunteers, yes, that would be, I think, incumbent on us to come up with a list of volunteers for, activities at the park and things like that. But I think what John was talking about is with the 501c3 members, work with us and be a part of that event.
Of course,
Okay, that is what I meant.
of course, we'll do whatever we can to collaborate.
Because I think the more people we have, the better it's gonna go,
I
and the more
agree.
we can brainstorm with people. And, it's, Vicki, I think you have experience with the food truck and your other endeavors of fundraising too. We would like to, pick your brain for things too.
That was actually something I was thinking it'd be good if we could get suggestions from the community about food trucks and also, local bands that they would enjoy having. Those two things.
And you said about September.
That's kind of what we were thinking about, because we're already in June, and then we would have to bring it to the board in July. So even September's gonna be probably pushing it.
Yeah. Plus, with a lot of the food trucks, they're probably already booked for the summer, as far as events are concerned, so it'd be a little bit difficult to get that going, so.
I'd like a cigar bar.
Do we have no smoking?
Nope, didn't see that.
Okay, any other questions, comments?
Comment, I would just like to say that we lost a very good person, that deals with baseball fields, very excellent knowledge with that we're gonna be lost. And it's gonna take us some time to get those fields ready where they should be. And if the first, items that we should do are the ball fields and the basketball court, I feel we will do those. Just a matter of us getting a master plan and,
And then itemizing
right.
priorities.
Where, if the first thing is maintenance, to maintain what we got, and we'll do maintenance. Which, like I said before, I don't like to do things twice, and if we maintain it correctly, it'll be around a while.
Vicky?
in what you're saying about the ballparks, I just don't want the rec board to forget about the concession stand, because the concession stand brings a lot of revenue to the ball teams. When Tim used to coach, I did all the concession stands. As expensive it is for a ball team to pay for the uniforms, to pay for the umps and do the fields and stuff like that. Having our concession stand where it would be stocked with, like, a lot of the ones you would go to different fields, it would be like a hot dog roller, like stuff that they can use so that they can sell food to bring in their revenue for their teams too. So when they rent a field, some of the ball teams that spoke with me when I was trying to help some of them get the fields, the concession stand is just as important as it was back when I did it. They need those concession stands to cost. Not all the parents can afford to give these monies for these travel teams. It's up to $500 now for your child if they can't do concessions. So you have people who have more than one child. That's a lot of money for them to play a sport, and they usually are in different ones. So if we can get we have the building there. It's just a matter of going in, doing some cleaning, stocking it so that they can use it for a fundraiser. It would make our fields and our concession stand more desirable for them to rent if they know that there is something that they can make money on the whole entire season. Just like tournaments. When they do tournaments, they can bring in a ton of revenue in our concession stand, and some people have said it's just not, our concession stand is just not up to par.
It's not.
And
That's been the problem.
I understand what he's saying about the maintenance of the fields, but the concession stand, if we would get that our ball teams could actually make a decent revenue and set it up like we said, where we have different people renting them, that's all that good revenue that would be coming in. Even the teams would want to help and volunteer to do the fields so that they're nice for them and the kids to play on. So it could be a way for us to get the fields, like what John's saying, if we could get our concession stand up where they could bring a lucrative income in to cover their costs.
Vicki, if you could type something up related to that and get it to the board, that would be great.
Okay, I'll do that.
So when a team rents a field, do they have to rent the concession stand in addition if they wanna use it?
It all depends on the field. Some of the fields that I looked at when I was looking at cost of running the fields and stuff, some of them, if there is a concession stand, include that with the rental of the ball field. Others have it as a separate entity. So that would be up to us to make that suggestion to the board of supervisors on how that would work.
Isn't it now, it's like, what is it, $80 to rent the concession? It's separate, I think, from what
Well, the
the,
concession stand hasn't been being used because it had a mold issue before, so it's not been used for a while.
we can go in and rectify that. I mean, that's,
Well, it's gotta come down to like the particle board being replaced and all of that, and I know some repairs have been done, I just don't know what repairs have been
Right.
done, because we haven't been up there once,
as of right now, from what I was told, it's $80 to rent the concession stand separate. So, if they can bring in several hundred, for their, it would be well worth it if we could do a nice, and it really doesn't, you can go to places like Community Aid, they always have appliances and that kind of stuff, dirt cheap. Tuesdays is Senior Citizens Day.
Facebook Marketplace.
Exactly, and all you'd have to do in the community is like when we put a newsletter out, ask them to contact the office or give one of the board members' names to contact for donating things like hot dog rollers, different things, crock pots. They could set up crock pots, do barbecue. It would be huge, and you just have a shelving unit, and if you have a team that comes in that doesn't keep the stuff clean, someone will always go over and check it. And, Sandy could have a key if she's walking, or one of us that are walking, and you could just go in and make sure everything's cleaned. And if they don't, you give them a notice, and then if they don't, they wouldn't be allowed to use it. And believe me, they'll wanna keep it clean because it'll be such a revenue bringing
Now-
for them.
include in your proposal what the benefits to the park would be. How would that benefit would there be a cost that would, a percentage of the sales that would come back to?
Well, no, you would just do a
Parks and
flat
Rec
rate.
Board or- And that's fine.
Because policing percentages is extremely difficult.
And that's
yeah.
fine,
It
but
just
all
a-
I'm saying is put that
Yeah.
in your proposal when you.
Yeah, it will
when you
bring
put it up
revenue
for
to
us.
the board
And
for
then-
stuff.
And the vision that I would have with that is that because we are not a financial arm, that those proceeds would go to the 501c.
Right, or whatever you're doing, yes.
Pat, did you have a question?
She kind of touched on it towards the end there, because we did have a lot of issues with damages and baseball teams not cleaning up and leaving a mess and everything. So I would think that there should be a deposit put down for that, specifically for that, so that if somebody has to come behind and clean, they don't get their deposit back.
That's a good idea. Okay. Yeah. And we can tack that onto Vicky's proposal as well. That's a good idea. Okay, anybody else?
No.
Questions? Anybody at the board? Okay, I have it 7:16, and I call this meeting adjourned.